Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. Doing something different this week. 5 films that changed me. 5 films that made me who I am, or in some way or other shaped me. Some of these movies shaped me, impacted me very personally, and had dramatic impact on my person, on the way that I treat the world, on the way that I view things. Some of them had impacts on me because I was a student of film, not in any official capacity. I just loved studying film for a long time. For a huge part of my life, I thought I was going to be in special effects, or I was going to be in some way, shape, or form make movies, but I live in West Virginia. There's not an opportunity for that here. And so today, the last 2 days, we've talked about a couple of very esoteric films that maybe you have or haven't heard of. Today, I don't think anybody watching has heard of this movie. It's a very, very, very strange movie. And the reality is, though I will tell people when asked, if they ask me what my favorite movie is, I'll say A Clockwork Orange. That's not the truth. This is actually my favorite movie. And I have to warn you, if you go seek this movie out, there is some extreme violence of a intimate nature. Trying to talk around YouTube's film. There's some very difficult scenes in this movie, but know that it was filmed in a very safe and comfortable place. Okay? This movie is called Begotten. I believe this is the first movie by director E. Elias Merhige. I'm not positive. I found out about this movie because I loved the movie Shadow of the Vampire, which was about Nosferatu. It was a movie that was about the filming of the movie Nosferatu. And the idea of that movie was that what if the guy who played Nosferatu really was a vampire? And that's how, it was set up the idea that they don't know how the ending of Nosferatu was filmed. Nobody knows how that effect was created. But the Shadow of the Vampire sets up the idea that it wasn't an effect. It was just he was really a vampire, which is nonsense. But whatever. It was a fun movie, and in watching the credits or watching the behind the scenes, I learned about this movie. I learned that Elias Merhige had made a different kind of thing as an art study in school, and I went immediately and sought it out because I was in this period of my life where finding these esoteric, strange, experimental films, this was a huge part of my life at that point. And this one is phenomenal in so many different ways. But it's kind of a movie where if I just show it to you, you'll be like, well, that was an experience, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in a lot of different ways. But if you know, you kind of need the story for it to work, right? Let me think. A popular example would be the Blair Witch Project. When the Blair Witch Project came out, they tried to advertise the movie as like an actual found footage movie, which it absolutely was not. And then they just said they made the movie. But if you know the story behind the movie becomes much more interesting. If you know that these actors were put in the woods and tormented for days and were basically starved, they were barely given any food, they were not allowed to sleep, they were woken up constantly, you understand that what you're seeing on that screen is pretty real. Like, these actors are going through some real mess to make this movie. Same kind of thing here. This movie is very grotesque, and again, there's some intimate violence in this movie. There's a lot of nudity in this movie. It's definitely not a sit down with the family and watch it movie, but it's a very powerful movie. There is no story. There's no soundtrack. I mean, there's noises, but there's nothing to it. You have to figure out what's happening, and the movie was shot in a way that Elias actually destroyed the negatives on purpose. He scratched everything. He said he was trying to make a movie that looked like it had been found in a clay pot with the Dead Sea Scrolls. He was trying to make like an ancient film, And I think that comes across when you watch it. It does feel like you're watching something from another time. Knowing that the cast that put this movie on spent like months rehearsing and being comfortable together, being naked together, doing these scenes and working this whole thing out. Really makes this a beautiful piece of cinema. It's fascinating, and it does tell a story. And I'm not going to tell you what I believe the story is, because it again is the kind of movie, it's the kind of story, very much like Eraserhead, very much like Secret Adventures of Tom Thumb, where it's kind of up to you to figure out what this movie is about. And I have my version of what this movie is about in my head. I think I know what this movie is. And man, I watched this probably 10 times in a row when I first got it. I was just fascinated by it. It was just so unbelievably bizarre and moving and powerful. And the story that I got out of it felt real. It's not like a personal story. It's more like a everything story, like a creation story or an anti-creation story. But the fact that I was able to pull that story out of such a odd and interesting and gross film was very powerful for me. Very, very powerful. This movie has been, it's unbelievable. It's really good. I highly suggest, if you're interested in very esoteric things, if you're interested in non-traditional storytelling, and you're okay with violence, with intimate violence, with some pretty difficult to get through scenes, I absolutely could recommend it. It's fascinating. And what's more fascinating is once you learn how it was made, and then you go watch it again, it becomes even more powerful, in my opinion. Okay, that was it. 5 movies that changed my life, or that changed me. That was a fun week. What do you got going on this weekend? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's 1,000 plus little things happy, successful, do differently. We are talking about 6 ways to find gratitude when everything goes wrong. The second one is finding gratitude when you catch yourself complaining. Many of us have developed a subtle habit of complaining when things don't quite go our way. Gratitude is the antidote. Each time you notice yourself feeling bitter or complaining, notice the story in your mind about how life should be. Instead of letting the story dominate you, find a small way to be grateful instead. What could you feel grateful for right now? What could you appreciate about this moment? Remember, there's always something to be negative about and something to be grateful for. The choice is ours. My daughter hit me with this the other day. She was complaining that she was tired and exhausted after a long, long day of softball practice. And the following day, as we were driving to more softball, she said, I did a lot of complaining yesterday, but I realized there's no place I'd rather be. Like, softball is what I want to do. And she had that moment. She was like, I don't know why I was complaining so much. Like, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, yeah, go do it. Go do the thing. Be grateful that you can. Stop complaining. I don't know. I'm working on that one myself. I complain a lot.